Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Migraine Minicast. I am Dr. Thompson Mayasaka. If you're here from TikTok, also known as the Headache Whisperer, Dr. Reese has a patient in from out of state today, so he's staying at the clinic a little bit late today, so it's just going to be me. And if you're here, thank you first and foremost for being here. Both Dr. Reese and I really enjoy making this content for you guys, and we sincerely hope that it's helpful and it helps you manage this terrible condition more effectively at home. So today we're going to talk about something we talk about with all of our patients, migraine patients anyway. It's a topic known as histamine. Histamine falls in a category of things that you can do at home for migraine, specific to food. And this topic, I've seen it work immediately and profoundly with quite a few people. And so we'll go over some basic other guidelines. The more you hear these things, the more it'll start to stick. Specifically for this one, if you have any sort of allergies, seasonal allergies, or if you find consistently getting allergic type of reactions, kind of scratchy throat, congestion when you eat things like aged cheeses, citrus fruits, and other fermented foods, this is a really good thing to start paying attention to. So before we go there, we can cover some of the basics of migraine nutrition. So the first and foremost, the easiest low-hanging fruit is to supplement electrolytes, ideally sugar-free, so they don't spike your blood sugar. And most people with migraine are relatively sensitive to artificial sweeteners, so ideally try and find one that's not sweetened with anything. So the reason that's important, which is a sort of a parallel for why histamine is important, is if you are listening and you actually have migraine, like true migraine, that's a genetically inherited condition that started right around the time you hit puberty, is progressively getting worse into your 30s, 40s, and 50s. Real migraine, and you'll know if you have it, you have several other unique traits about your physiology that make you more likely to have these terrible attacks. So one of them has to do with electrolyte imbalances. So what that means is all of your nerve cells have a charge from outside to inside. Healthy neurons have a big charge from outside to inside. There's a good balance of electrolytes on either side of it's called a membrane. So one of the genetic traits for people with migraine is your cells leak out ions accidentally. There's sort of a leaky door that does not hold them in. So the difference between outside to inside gets very small. And that makes it much more likely to spontaneously just kind of do its own thing. And so that's an issue that you can pretty easily fix by consistently supplementing with electrolytes. The other sort of food related thing that you can do at home is make sure that your blood sugar is stabilized. The easy way, I won't spend too much time on it right now, is just Google low glycemic diet and do your best to eat as close to that as possible. So when we talk about other genetic sort of other unique ways in which your genes are different, one of them has to do with how people break down histamine. And so histamine, if you guys are not familiar, is something your body produces when it senses that you're sensitive or allergic to something. It also has a lot to do with how your body processes pain. So for example, if you've ever had say a paper cut, paper cuts release histamine at the site of the cut, and it does two things for you. So one, it's going to bring a bunch of blood flow to the site of the cut, which will make it all swollen and red. And it's also going to sensitize the nerves that send pain, which in the paper cut example is super helpful. It lets your body know, hey, something wrong here. Try not to touch this area or to make it infected. And the blood flow is essentially just to bring a bunch of white blood cells to protect it against infection. So it's got a lot of very valid reasons for being produced. If you think about sensitizing pain and vasodilating, which means bringing blood somewhere, in the context of migraine, it's terrible. It's the worst thing that can happen because you'll have a migraine and you get that pulsing feeling, which in the presence of histamine is going to be stronger, and it's going to hurt more, which are two things no one with a migraine wants any part of. And so that's one of the main reason why avoiding foods that produce histamine is such a huge part of the migraine diet. And so it has a little bit less to do with producing histamine and more so to do with not having the genes to make the enzymes that take it away. So let's say I didn't have migraines, I get ocular migraines, but let's just pretend like I didn't. If I eat something that I'm sensitive to, my genes will produce the enzyme, it's called DAO, or diamine oxidase, and that will take the histamine and make it go away pretty quickly. I won't really have many issues. The problem with migraine is when you produce histamine, you lack that enzyme to clear it out, and then it circulates. And if you happen to have a migraine when it's circulating, it's going to vasodilate more, it's going to hurt more. So that is not a good thing if you are in the middle of an attack, which is why this diet is so helpful. So a lot of the things that produce histamine: aged cheese, cured meats, anything with a lot of yeast in it, spinach, tomatoes, citrus fruits. All of these things are generally histamine producing and always things that you want to avoid. So, in the process of finding a diet that's going to work for you, it behooves you to both choose a low glycemic diet. Again, just Google low glycemic diet, and there's a ton of PDFs on the first page. Super, super helpful. It's actually the best practice for more extreme seizure conditions like epilepsy. And in that same vein, definitely take, I'll name them again: aged cheese, cured meat, yeast products, spinach, tomatoes, and citrus fruits. Make sure you're avoiding those like the plague, especially if you're generally sensitive to allergies in general. It might not be a bad idea. I would consult your physician before doing this, but taking some sort of antihistamine is really helpful in this case. If you happen to find yourself in a situation when you just can't avoid eating these things, having an antihistamine on board is a nice way to make sure that if you do have an attack, histamine isn't going to come and just ramp up the intensity of it. So in terms of other things that you can do for it, the biggest things, again, just to summarize, are low glycemic diet. You just don't want your already sort of hyper excitable brain tissue to be robbed of its primary fuel source, which is glucose. When you eat things that are really high in carbohydrates or sugar, your blood sugar spikes, and then your body goes, uh-oh, that's not good. We have too much sugar in the blood. That's essentially diabetes, so we need to take it out. And then it takes too much out and it crashes. That's why you get tired after you eat something sugary. And when it's crashed like that, that's when you leave yourself really susceptible to having an attack. Huge fluctuations in blood sugar. A lot of people will tell me that missing meals is a trigger for them. So again, Google low glycemic diet and try and follow it. Supplement your electrolytes, and then Google histamine friendly diet as well, where you can just write down those foods that I listed and try and avoid those. So when it really comes down to this is one of the topics of discussion we have very early on in the care. It's almost always the first thing that we talk about, because if you can just get a handle on these aspects of food that make you more likely to have an attack, we've seen patients go from 20, 25 migraines a month down to, I think the last one was we got her down to 8. She could actually take her abortive medication and have it do its job, which was the first for her in a lifetime of suffering from this terrible illness. It's stuff you can do on your own. And that is the biggest thing that we're trying to get out into the world, is when you get out of the medical world and you start to choose things that are sort of labeled as alternative. We want to give you as many resources that you have access to, that you have the power to do on your own. And so this histamine diet, we've been seeing tremendous results with it, and it doesn't really take all that much. If you're going to venture into the food to treat migraine world, this is a great place to start. I would start with electrolytes and then venture into this. I think you'll be really surprised at some of the results that happen. So those are the tips for this week. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. We are so thankful that you trust us with this information. We are so happy to provide it for you every week, and we don't have any signs of stopping anytime soon. So if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, the link is down in the description here. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.